North Korea is always my favorite. I love North Korea, but they're talking about reunification, and they've had a lot of movement inside of South Korea that's suggesting that they also love the idea of reunification. And of course, we have Kim's sister, my spirit animal, but they're kind of. I think everybody kind of sees the West as weak. Can we rectify the wrongs that have been done to us? And what do you think about North Korean reunification, and how does it look through the lens of China?
So, a lot of people, I say people swallow the State Department lines of China. I mean, it's like 100 times worse when it comes to North Korea, right? Because one thing, it's still harder to travel to North Korea. Like United States, after the Won buyer business, now United States citizens can't even travel to North Korea. Like I can't travel to North Korea, unless like somebody from Taiwan marry me and give me a Taiwan passport. And but anyway, so
don't marry anyone from Taiwan.
No, I talk about like Xiang Yu, my friend Xiang Yu joked that we can fake a gay marriage, because Taiwan recognized gay marriage, so we can fake a gay marriage so I can get my Taiwan resident card, and because mainland China, because China recognized Taiwan as part of China, so anybody on Taiwan, they can get a special pass to allow them to basically function as Chinese citizens on mainland China. So that's all I want. I was like, okay, let's fake a gay marriage so I can get my Taiwan resident card. So that will allow me to go to mainland China, travel freely to mainland China.
Well, myself, and I think I speak for all of my listeners when I say, if you fake a gay marriage to get to North Korea, nobody will judge you for that. Just go right ahead to North Korea, because at least somebody can go. I'm dying to go to North Korea. Like, if it's good enough for Putin, it's good enough for me. I'm on my way. Like, I'm very excited for North Korea. I don't remember the book, but I'll put it in the comments or the description. But there's a book that written by a Westerner that's fantastic about North Korea, and that's literally what got me like over this hump, because we don't learn about the Korean War. It's treated like a very insignificant war in the United States, just because there was not a lot of fanfare. It was like in the aftermath of World War II.
We don't want to talk about it because we got US got his ass kicked. Yeah, I mean, like, so okay, it's a forgotten war.
It really is. It really, really is. And there's nobody that says I'm a North Korean war vet. There's none of that, like the Vietnam or World War II. So understanding what really happened, it really put a terrible taste in my mouth for South Korea, and understanding why Korean unification of the peninsula was cut, why it couldn't happen, and why it was used as a tool against China.
Yeah. I mean, people in United States like, oh, U.S. went in to save a democracy.
Yeah.
It's like South Korea in 1940, in 1950 was not democracy. Who told you that? South Korea has functioned as a military dictatorship
literally.
1980. Yeah, 1998. And the people who were in the government in South Korea for most of the time were like former Japanese collaborators.
Yes.
and when there was actually a vote, because after World War II, Korea was divided between the Soviet occupied zone and the U.S. Actually, the agreement was decided in the Yalta Conference. The Korean Peninsula will be, northern half will be Soviet and the southern half will be U.S. occupied. But it was supposed to be temporary. And when the Soviet Union launched the August Storm and they went into Manchuria to crush the Japanese Guangdong Army, they were able to arrive in Korean Peninsula pretty quickly. They could have, if they wanted to, they could have just pushed through and take the whole Korean Peninsula, but they abided by the prior agreement with United States by stopping at the 38th parallel, right? So that allowed later U.S. to come in, and when the U.S. come in, it's like, Well, I think the best way forward is to keep all the Japanese collaborators in place to help us to run this place. So, I mean, obviously that wasn't very popular. That's not what people in Korea expected when they're being liberated. When like, why is it still same people in charge? And there was actually a vote for like a republic, People's Republic Korea that was like, you know, the entire unified Korea, but guess what? United States government disbanded that organization. They sent them. They sent the North. It's like you can't operate here. We got a nice gig going on. We got a functional like all these like nice colonial collaborators keeping the whole structure going on. You know, and that so the Korean War was a civil war. You know, no matter how you spin it, people are trying to say, oh, because it's a U.S. trying to deter North Korean aggression. No. This is a civil war. This is a civil war. It's just like Korean War is no different from Vietnam War. This is a national liberation. It's a war of national liberation, and U.S. is just. U.S. is stepping because at that time U.S. is all about stopping communism. It's like okay, like it's a domino theory. Okay, if they're gonna take all Koreans are gonna move on to Japan, we can't allow that because Japan is our precious. But nobody can. And then you know, people don't know, but Curtis LeMay, the U.S. Air Force general.
Yeah.
We ran out of target in North Korea. We ran out of target. We bombed all the cities, all the public infrastructure, all the power plants, all the dams. We have nothing left to bomb. And people in the United States never heard about it. They don't understand like millions of people has been killed by U.S. bombing. And there was a story. I was watching a documentary about these Chinese Air Force general who was a commander of the Chinese Air Force in the 1980s. He was one of the first pilot in the Chinese Air Force, and because his mom, so he fought in the Korean War, and he flew against America in the Korean War. But because his mom was Russian, so he looks white. So he got shot down over near the 38th parallel. And when he parachuted and landed in a North Korean village. So because his Western features, everybody thought he was American. So they start beating on him because like the villagers are so angry at the American pilots who are constantly bombing them. And so they all pile on him and start beating him. And he was only saved by and like a North Korean officer came by just in time, and because the North Korean officer speaks Chinese, and he's like, no, I'm not American, and show him the badge, and then that's how he was saved from the wrath of the North Korean villagers. I mean, but that's how it really shows how much like the American pilots were hated back then by people who were being brutalized by the American bombing campaign.
I don't think people here don't even know about the Plain of Jars. Like they don't know anything. They know Vietnam, and then there's something happened in the Korean Peninsula, and now we hate China. That's pretty much the extent of what everybody knows.
And the thing about the Plain of Jars, you know, people may have conceptually they may have heard Laos was the most bombed country in the world, but what they don't understand is when China went to Laos to build the high-speed rail a couple years ago, they still have to clear all the unexploded ordinances from the Vietnam War. For all these American bombs, American left so much bomb on Laos. There were still, the landscape is dotted with unexploded ordinances that's killing children, crippled, maiming people. So when China went to build the high-speed rail, all along the way, they have to dig up all these American bombs that left unexploded and treat them. So, you know, it's just another example of America bombs and China builds, right? I mean, Indonesia. Indonesia now has a high-speed rail going
Yeah,
350 kilometer per hour. I mean, like
nobody wants to talk about Jakarta or what we did in Indonesia and Malaysia and all of that. Nobody wants to talk, all in the name of stopping communism. Let's destroy. And we use those unexploded ordinance in Cambodia and Laos and all of those areas to keep ourselves inserted in there. We still do missions to go clean up the unexploded ordinance, and we're not really.
There was so much, like, even I am surprised. Like, I thought I was pretty well versed in, Asian history and stuff. And I was doing some research on the CIA airline based in Taiwan, what they call the civil air transport. and so I was surprised to find out in the 1950s, the CIA Airlines civil air transport, they actually had pilots to flew to Indonesia to bomb Indonesian airfields from Taiwan. and because, in the 1950s. And of course, they also ship weapons to the Golden Triangle in Myanmar and then fly out drugs, and that's another story. that's another. It's weird how whenever the American military turns up or when American CIA gets involved, there's always seem to be a lot of drugs. Like that happened in Myanmar. That happened in that happened in the Golden Triangle, and then that happened in Afghanistan, and then
drugs. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's always funny how that works. Look, all these unaccounted money that's like you cannot be audited, and then it can be diverted to black ops. I don't know why that happens, right?
No, nobody knows why. There's huge drug trafficking lanes from the Balkans down into Afghanistan, down up into the Xinjiang.
Kosovo, like freaking Kosovo. Like what NATO was doing peace mission to Kosovo for how many years? It's still freaking like the center of crime and drugs. How did that work? I mean, yeah.